Who was Jesus? Jesus was just a man, just like me and you, just like everyone else. But somehow, while in the flesh, he managed to become a spirit. And that's why when he was saying things from a spiritual place deep within him, a lot of the people around him did not understand exactly what he was saying. For example, when he was speaking with Nicodemus and was saying to him, he gotta be born again. That's why Nicodemus, understanding from a physical place, did not really get what he was saying. And then he goes on to say, you gotta be born of water and of the Spirit. That's why when he was having this conversation with Nicodemus, and he was saying, you gotta be born of the Spirit, born of the water and the Spirit, Nicodemus did not get exactly what he was speaking about. And he went on to say, that which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. And the only way he could say something like this is because he himself has find himself right in this place and recognize what he really is, that he was not a physical thing anymore, that he was a spiritual being. And as a spiritual being, he's speaking on a spiritual level. And if the one who is having that conversation with a spiritual person and the spiritual person is speaking, he will not understand majority of what he's saying. You got to realize, for him to be speaking like this from this place, from a spiritual level, that means he has become that thing. He is that thing, and that thing is speaking through him. Is not a physical thing anymore. So how did he become like this? How did he become this spiritual thing, a spiritual being, and shake off the flesh? Because he become a spiritual being while living in the flesh. He become godlike while living in the flesh. Where did he get this from? Because if you look at the environment that he was living in, what we call Israel now, back then it wasn't Israel. But if you look at that environment, nobody else in that environment was speaking on that level that he was speaking. That means wherever he learned this or wherever he get this information from was not in that environment. You gotta remember this. When he was young, he gotta move out of Jerusalem. He gotta move out of that city because there were people trying to murder him. There were people trying to get rid of that age group that he was in. And he went to Egypt. And more or less, in Egypt, you got to realize in Egypt at that time, this was after the Greek of capture and the Greek of build an empire. And this was taken over by the Roman, and in Alexander in Egypt, that means all those masters, religious teachers, those spiritual teachers were gathered in the center in Alexander there. So more or less, if he went to Egypt, he would be swimming in that ocean of information, of knowledge. Because it wasn't where he was living, he picked up all that information. It was somewhere else. And I'm assuming it was in Egypt because the philosophers and all the teachers were gathered in Alexander. And you will have people speaking in a part of the city which was the custom at that time. Just like how Socrates used to stand and having his conversation with a crowd. It was the same thing back then, where you could pass by on the street and listen to somebody giving this teaching, giving this wisdom, showing the way to get to this place within you, pointing the way to get deep within yourself and to become a spirit. And if you realize when he got back up, when all this has settled down and his life was not in danger anymore, and he went back up, what did he do? He went into the synagogue and he was arguing with these rabbis, these Pharisees, and all these people. That means he was accustomed to this kind of conversation before. That's why when he got back up, that's what he jumped into. Because more or less, that's what he was seeing in Egypt. People having conversation and arguing back and forth, trying to figure out what the truth is. So that's why when he come back up, he was questioning all these things. If you realize, he was not speaking from the same place as Nicodemus was speaking, and even his disciples that was with him almost every day. Not all of them understand what he was saying and understand the place that he was speaking from, because they have not figured out where this place is within them. If they did figure out where that place is within them, then some of the questions that they ask would not be asked, because they will see where the beginning is and they will see where the end is, and they will realize that it's at the same place deep within themselves. Remember, when he went to Egypt, the religion of Egypt was still intact, even though it was the Roman which take it over from the Greek, but it was still intact. So you would have access to all that information, all that knowledge that has accumulated in that place, and knowledge coming from all over the other cities that the Greek have taken over, or the Romans have taken over. Let me say this. There is a certain point in history where a lot of information is accessible, and that was one of the time where you have people from the Far East, people from right across the Greek and the Roman Empire gathered in this city filled with all kind of different information, with all kind of different knowledge. Now we can compare that time back then to now, where we have access. If you're looking in the right place, you have access to this big library through the internet, and you can go back in time and kind of see the environment that these people were living in, and look at us in this environment with the access we have to all these different teachings from China, from India, from the Middle East, from the Greek, from Socrates, all the way up to the Romans, and coming up into the European Empire, and all these, from all these people who are the great philosophers who leave this body of work, and people reinterpreting and reinterpreting what that knowledge is and breaking it down. And we have access to all that. Look at that time in the same situation where all these people gather together with the information. So if he was swimming in that kind of environment, yes, and he's searching for that kind of knowledge, for sure, he would find what he was looking for. He could go from one area to the next to hear different people speak on the subject. And somewhere in between, once those words enter into his interior, he figure out the truth. Just like us now, we can go through all the books from the Buddha, from Socrates, from Plato, from the Greek philosophers, from the Romans, Seneca, and all those kind of people, and from the Chinese with Lao Tzu, those kind of thing. If you go through all these books, you will realize something. They're all pointing in the same direction. And once you can put one and one together, then you will see the similarity. The foundation is similar, and they're pointing to a place within you. Like Jesus is saying, the kingdom is within you, it's not outside of you. And they are pointing at a place within you. So when you listen, are you reading what Jesus said? You come to the realization, as I said before, he's not speaking on a physical level. He have been through all that. He have seen, he have searched, he have find where the real thing is, and that's deep within himself. And he realized, as he said, the flesh count for nothing. The words I speak to you are spirit, and they give life. He realized that. And that's why when he's talking about all these things, like sowing the seed and some falling on solid ground and some falling on rock, and birds picking it up, and birds taking the seed, and those that fall in fertile soil multiply and produce hundreds and hundreds. It's the same thing on a spiritual level. When you find that within you that is real, and it is watered, it is grown, then this thing, as he said, from a small mustard seed, it grows into a big tree where the birds can sit in, and you yourself can shelter underneath this tree. So for you to understand majority of what he's saying, you gotta become like him. And when you become like him, then you will see and understand it. It's like day and night. It's like darkness and light. You can see what he see, but you gotta go deep within yourself to really recognize what he's speaking about. And once you do that, then everything would be made clear. So looking at Jesus from that point, and how he become deified or become a spirit while living in the flesh and speaking on that level, on that plane, on that dimension, then you get a better understanding of who he really is. He did not care much about the flesh because he know it's in the spiritual world that things are real. Just like Socrates when he was pointing to what's real or what's good. This is the same idea here. The only thing, Jesus bring it out on a bigger level for you to see it much more clearly. What is good and what is real within you. You got to go deep within yourself because he said the kingdom of God is within you. If you want to see who God is, you will never find God on the outside, on the exterior. You got to go deep within, just like he did. And this is not a rocket science or anything like that. This is working with yourself. This is actually spending time with yourself. This is knowing yourself. Because if he didn't know himself, he would not come to the conclusion that he come to. And once you dig deep within yourself, then you can see the same thing that he was looking at. That's why he can say the things he say without any doubt in his mind and with so much confidence. When he was saying, he and his Father is one, I and my Father are one. When he was saying that, he didn't hesitate. He wasn't ashamed of what he's saying because he know and he see that he was a spirit, and he see the most powerful force in the universe that create all that exists. And he realized, hey, this is the same thing as me. This is the same thing that's flowing through the universe. It's the same thing that's flowing through me. And that's why he say all these things that he said. And this, when you come to this place, this is what he's talking about, where you can see everything and hear and know who is the real creator here, who is everywhere right through the universe. Because God is not a physical thing. God is a spirit. Remember when he was talking to the lady at the well, the Samaritan lady, and he said, God is spirit, and those who worship God must worship God in spirit and in truth. And those are the kind he's seeking to worship him. So if he did not know himself and come to this place, he could not speak on this level. And another gospel, the gospel of Thomas, he said this: when you know yourself, then you are known, and you will realize that you're a son of the living Father. But if you do not know yourself, you live in poverty, and you are that poverty. And if you go through a lot of the scripture where he's speaking and saying things, you will recognize that he's not speaking on a physical level. He's speaking on a spiritual level. And once you come to recognize that and can recognize that within you, then you become like him. You see the things he see because you're walking in the same direction. You're walking on the same street. And when he was speaking from that place, he wasn't speaking from the flesh. He wasn't speaking from a physical experience. He was speaking from the spiritual experience that he was having, because he's been in this world, the physical world. He know the different in the physical world, and he know the different in the spiritual world. And he become a spiritual being. And when he's speaking from this place, he could describe things and see the reality in the spiritual world. And it's not the same in the physical world. When you live in the spiritual world for a while and you explore this world and you see that it's the spiritual world that's responsible for the physical world, then you know that the spiritual is more important, because without the spiritual and the mental world, the physical world, what you're trying to bring into existence is not possible. It gotta come from a spiritual place before it can enter into the physical world. And this is the kind of thing JC was looking at this point. And he realized all the play in the physical, and he realized all the play in the spiritual. And he decided that the spiritual world is a better place. So that's why when you get to this place, you will realize that this is an endless place, that the flesh itself will disappear at some point, but in the spiritual realm, then that's eternity, because there's no physical thing inside this place. He come to that realization that the physical will at some point go. The physical is not real, and it's the spiritual aspect of your life that you and everyone should focus on if you want to know yourself and know who Jesus is and know who the maker, the creator of all is. That's where you got to focus. That's where you got to find out what is what. It's not on the exterior, it's on the interior. You got to find these things. So, who Jesus was all that. He come to know what he really is. He come to know himself. He come to see what was real within him, and he realized that was the real thing in the universe, and that real thing he called his Father. And he could not deny it. He realized without that he does not exist, and that was the foundation he was built on, and everything was coming through that. Everything, the plants, life, everything that have life, and things without life, things that you can see and things that you could not see, things you know and things you don't know. There's a lot we don't know. He realized what was happening here in this space within him, where he come face to face with the most powerful force in the universe. And he could not deny that this was his Father, because he realized he's the same thing on a spiritual level. And this is the max you can get to while living in the flesh. He was living in the flesh, but he become a spiritual being. And that's why he speak the way he speak, and do the things he do, and act the way he act. And because of that, we still talk about him today, and we'll keep on talking about him until eternity. As long as there's human being, he's gonna be coming up in conversation, and his ideas are gonna be still shaping and molding human being as we go on. Remember, Jesus know who and what he is. He know himself. And you too have that opportunity to know yourself. Don't wait too long. You got to dig within yourself to know yourself. You can't find it on the exterior. You got to invest some time and spend some time just like he did within himself for him to see what he see and speak what he speak in the way he did. Is because he was coming from that spiritual place where all the knowledge, where all the information that you have access to in the inner world and the outer world, all words are coming from the foundation of what's real, no matter what kind of word it is. And he come to realize that. And you too, if you're on this journey, once you dig inside yourself, you will see where the fountain is overflowing within you. You can go to this fountain with a teaspoon, or you can go with the largest thing you have, which is yourself, and gather up all that. Drown yourself here. Drown yourself. When you drown the flesh here, then you become a spiritual thing. And you will see eternity. You will live in eternity. Just like JC did. Just like he did. So, he was a man just like me and you, a human being. But he come to know himself, and he realized what he is. Know thyself. Know thyself, and you will be seeing exactly what he see. Remember to bring some clarity and some awareness into your creative space. 10 to 12 deep breath can get you started. Like, subscribe, leave your comment below, but be nice. Blessing be with you always. Peace out.